a questa prima lezione dal vivo, prima lezione dopo tanto tempo. It's great to be back. I think you can hear me now. Can you hear me? Mi sentite? Sì? Perfetto, ok. Sono molto emozionato perché è molto tempo che non faccio questa cosa. It's been so long since I've been live, I'm a bit scared, ok? Allora, benissimo, bene, siamo 45 studenti, perfetto, un bel gruppo. Allora, oggi parliamo di italiano per principianti. So it's a Q&A session for beginner students of Italian. So what I'm going to do is I'll get you to ask me questions in the chat, and then I will give you the best answer I can think of. Ciao a tutti, ciao. Bello vedere gente che conosco, anche i miei studenti. Ciao. Okay, so what I suggest you do, since I'll be looking at the camera or sometimes typing, it's really best if while I'm answering a question, you don't ask more questions because I won't see them, because the chat moves really fast. So something that I did in the past was to have the chat appear on the side. Hey Harry, ciao. Suzanne, ciao a tutti. I'm not playing favorites. Those are my students in the academy course where they're learning Italian with me. So I know them more than I know other people. Ciao a tutti, buonasera a tutti, buongiorno. So what's the first question? Let's start. I won't bother with showing you the chat on the side. If you're watching this as a recording, I will make sure to read the question that I'm answering. So I'm not just going to answer. Okay. Allora, chi c'è? How to keep motivated when learning Italian? Yeah, that's a good question. It's a very good question, especially for a beginner, because it's easy to lose motivation. And the one thing with learning a language is that it's a really, really, really big topic. I mean, think of your language, how much stuff there is in your language. And so when you're approaching a new language like Italian, it might be frustrating initially because it's a little bit harder to see results compared to other areas or other subjects, because a language is so massive that you always feel inadequate. And the best way to reverse that is to set very small goals. So actually I have a video coming up on the biggest mistakes you could make when learning Italian, and one is to go with I'm gonna be fluent in Italian. Now, of course you want to set a goal that it's beautiful and big, like I want to be fluent, but it's not going to happen in 3 months. And so, as humans, as grown-ups, we give up things very, very easily, especially if it feels confronting or challenging, because nobody likes to feel stupid. And when you start a language, that happens a lot because you go back to being a baby and only saying basic things. And so, my advice to stay motivated is actually to set very small goals. And so you might say, okay, in 4 weeks, I want to be able to introduce myself and jump on a call with an Italian friend or somebody who speaks Italian, and be able to just introduce myself. And if I can speak for 3 minutes, I'll be the happiest person in the world. You do that, so you're working towards that mini goal. And after 4 weeks, fair enough, you get on a call with somebody, you do it, and you realize that it actually wasn't that scary. And then you set a little bigger of a goal. And the other thing to do to stay motivated is to commit to doing it every day instead of doing what we tend to do as busy people, which is dedicate 1 day a week. That's why private lessons don't work. I mean, if you see a private tutor and it's costing you money, you find that you might see that person for 1 hour every Thursday, but then you don't touch Italian for the remaining 6 days, and then you show up at the next lesson and you can't really say anything, you haven't progressed. And the reason is that our brain doesn't work like that, especially if you're trying to impress on yourself the idea that you want to stick to learning Italian. So try and do a little bit every day, even if it's only 10 minutes on Quizlet to learn some vocabulary, watch a couple of videos. Ideally you have a structured course, little promo here, it's coming up. But yeah, I mean, obviously, sometimes I get emails my emails from people watching my YouTube channel, and I say, I love your channel, but I don't know what to watch next. And that's because that's the nature of YouTube. We make videos on different topics. There is no structure. So make sure that you have a structure to follow. Anyway, that was my answer. Hope that was useful. Okay. Matt, how can I learn Italian more easily without confusing it with Spanish? I've taken, yeah, I know that, almost 10 years of Spanish, but now I'm having a hard time separating the two. Okay, yeah, that's a common problem, but you have to look at it as an advantage, obviously, because if you are fluent in Spanish, you know that. I mean, it's going to be easier to learn Italian than it is to learn Italian directly from English or any other native language. So look at it as an asset. The way I did when I was learning Portuguese, I confused it with Spanish because they're quite similar. And the one thing that, it's not helping you, but for me, it helped a little bit the fact that I was already fluent in Spanish and I wasn't studying Spanish at the same time. And so I approached Portuguese already knowing Spanish and not really touching it too much. So my question to you is, are you still actively studying Spanish? Because if you are, that's going to be a little bit harder. Whereas if you just know Spanish, then you can use it to your advantage, basically. Let me think if I can tell you something more. Okay, here it is. Since Italian is the language you know the least out of the two, I would say find Italians to hang out with every single day. Sure, you speak, you know, what's the mix of Italian and Spanish? Itagnolo. Yeah, you speak Itagnolo, and that's fine because the idea is that you communicate with them. But if you speak Italian every day to friends or online, your Spanish will slowly give way to the Italian, and so I would do that. There's a lot of questions that I'm sorry, but I cannot read. Let me just, if I can pop the chat out, let me just, how does it work? I'm going to have to scroll up and look at some of the questions. Nick, can you explain the verb finire with di? Per esempio, finisco di, sorry, I can't see. Finisco di mangiare or finito di bere. Why does finire use di and what other verbs use it? I love this question because I will have to give you the most annoying answer. And that's because in Italian you have two situations, same as English. There are times when you use a preposition because it makes sense to use it. For example, if you're thinking, I'm studying for my exam, that for is needed because of the meaning that you're trying to give. And in Italian it would be the same. Studio per l'esame. But the problem with verbs is that in many cases, in majority of cases, the preposition that you're using doesn't depend on the meaning. Like in English, listening to. I listen to music, you cannot change the to something else. Or I depend on you. That on is used because depend works with on. And so in Italian you will find that a lot of verbs just work with one preposition. So the best way to do it is when you learn a new verb, like for example venire. Let's say you're learning venire and somebody teaches you venire and you think, okay, I got it, it's irregular, I know the conjugation, I'm done. No, you're not done. Jump on a good dictionary and look up venire, although you already know what it means, and look at all the examples, and you will see that any time somebody, it was finire, not venire, it's the same, okay, finire. Anytime they use finire in an example, followed by a verb, they use di. So, finisco di mangiare, I'm finishing eating. Finisco di studiare, and that's because finire uses di, full stop. So whenever finire is followed by an infinitive, it's going to use this, di. There's no logical reason, just like there is no reason why listening uses to. So when you learn a new verb, check what preposition it uses because chances are it's got its favorite and it doesn't make sense. So can't help you. I mean, can't explain why. That it just is, basically. Okay. Aiden, how do I get over freezing up while trying to reply to people? Yeah, okay. It depends on your level. That's a good question. It depends on your level, but you have to first be kind to yourself. Like I said at the beginning, you are starting to learn something that is humongous, and as adults, we tend to give up very easily because we feel uncomfortable not being good at something, unlike children. That's why they are better than us in this, for example. So the one way to do it, especially if you're just starting, you have to have pre-canned replies for as much as possible. So you don't want to be in a position where you have to understand their question when the question is fairly basic. Like, for example, che lavoro fai? Or che lavoro fa? If somebody's asking you what do you do for work, you don't want to have to think about it. So uh, rehearse these standard questions. So, che lavoro fa o che lavoro fai? Have you answer. Sono dentista e lavoro in uno studio a Roma. Like, you know, whatever your answer is. So, have as many canned replies as possible. That's going to give you the confidence. Also, think about it. People don't just attack you with a random question in most cases, unless they're stopping you in the street. The interaction usually starts in a soft way and usually starts with the same number of questions or the same order. So, for example, if you go to a party and you're making friends with somebody, they will first ask you the basic questions. And so, if you have kind of pre-made answers, you will get the confidence you need to then kind of reassure them that you can understand, and sometimes that it takes you a bit longer to reply, but they'll be a lot more patient, because the only reason you freeze is that you think they're going to get annoyed with your taking too long. That's basically why we freeze in most cases. And I think having pre-made replies as much as possible really will help. Okay. Diego, what should we have in mind as benefit from Italian as to speak it very well? I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Are you saying that what's the benefit of speaking Italian very well? Oh, it's experiencing Italy, the real Italy. If you go with no Italian, you experience the traveler's Italy, which is overpriced, over rude, terrible service, you'll be taken advantage of because it's one of those countries. So if you're just money to them, they will treat you just like money. If you know a little bit of Italian, then you will get a bit more of the normal experience, because people are very nice in Italy, but they're scared of having to speak English. And so if you have a little bit of Italian, you're going to get treated more nicely. If you actually speak Italian, I suggest you look up, I have a series called Italian Accelerator, and it's one 50-minute session of me speaking Italian to somebody, and then a few lessons in English where I explain the languages we use. But if you look up episode 8, the original chat, it's a chat I'm having with an English speaker who speaks really good Italian, and he's had an amazing experience in Italy only because he had the good Italian to help him. Italians are lovely if you can talk to them. And so if the real benefit of speaking Italian is that you experience the Italy that you kind of think Italy is about, like friendly people, sharing food, going out like socially the Italian way. And you're not going to experience that if your Italian is not that good, because Italians are just so scared of having to not speak Italian, basically, that it's really hard to enter a group of Italians if your Italian is not good. They just need you to speak Italian. All right, so okay, there's too many questions and I can't read them. Arthur, sim, falo português, mas falo português de Portugal, não português do Brasil. That came out a bit Brazilian as well. Okay. Alright. Claudia, if you stop for a couple of months, how is the better way to get back to the course? Okay, so Claudia, you're in one of my courses. That's great. Well, best way is, what I find with students enrolled in my courses is that you get very anxious about, I'm behind. Behind compared, like, in relation to whom? It's your journey. And so, first of all, I would say, you need to catch up because your mind has forgotten some of the Italian that you learned. And so definitely you have to do it. But be nice to yourself and don't compare yourself to others. Like, you're not really behind. So what I would do is, if you're taking one of my courses, just go over maybe just the PDFs, because you don't have to watch all the lessons again. Just go through your PDFs and just make sure that you are getting it. And depending on which course you are in, I would say take the quizzes. I don't know if you can take quizzes depending on the course, but retake the quiz of each topic, and that will help you kind of consolidate what you think you forgot. Joy, ciao. My French is coming to mind when I'm trying to produce Italian. It shocks me because I haven't spoken French for 20 years. Yeah, but actually that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You know, I'll tell you a funny story. So I don't speak Spanish too often, okay? And so when I do, sometimes I get to a point where I don't remember the word. And guess what? My brain goes and tells me the Portuguese word, and it's never right because the Italian word is the one that would have helped me. Now, with French, you will find that there's a lot of similarities, and so and French is not as scary of a language to Italians than English is for them, if you know what I mean. Like, not in an offensive way, but you know, Italians feel a bit less threatened by French than they are by English, and of course they feel really comfortable with Spanish because it sounds similar. But you know, if French comes out, that's fine. You know, it probably is going to suggest the word to your brain, and then just fix it. Don't worry. We're so harsh on ourselves, aren't we? Yeah. Adam, ciao Manu, prima volta che ti vedo dal vivo, finalmente. Bene, bene, I'm happy to be seen, grazie, è bello vederti qua, o averti qua. Ok. Vediamo un po' altre domande. Joy, how do we use perciò or perciò? Perciò. Perciò is one word, it's spelled as one word, perciò, and I would say that the best rendition, like you would use perciò when you're trying to say and for this reason. Quindi, per esempio, I'm terrible at coming up with examples like on the spot, but I don't know. Mi piace nuotare e perciò vado in piscina tutti i giorni. Like, I like to swim, and perciò I go to the swimming pool every day. So it's like saying, and for this reason, and this is why. Okay? So I would say, if you're, that's when I would use perciò. It's also used like kind of ironically when if somebody doesn't really talks for a little bit and that they not really have a point, then you might say e perciò and so like. But yeah, go with the meaning that I've just said because that's the common one. Okay, so let me just scroll through. Adam, il modo migliore per allargare e espandere il vocabolario. First of all, you have no idea how much I love this question because vocabulary is the cornerstone of learning a language. Pronunciation is the first one because you have to be understood. So first, work on sounding good. Second, you have to know words to talk about stuff and to describe stuff. Even if you do it with broken grammar, and initially it's going to be broken grammar. For the first 2 years, it's going to be broken grammar. Doesn't matter. But the more vocabulary you know, the better you are going to feel by yourself, and the more you'll be able to say the stuff that you need to say to the Italians. And so, personally, the best way I find to learn vocabulary is to do two things. I use flashcards, so I use Quizlet personally. You can use Memrise. These are like free tools that create little flashcard where you get the Italian and the English on the other side. You can do it on paper, obviously, but technology really helps because it's going to remind you to review a certain word after a certain period of time. So I use flashcards. But then what I would do is, let's say you learn 10 new words today, and how you're going to learn them, it depends on your level. If you're a complete beginner, you are going to learn them by lists. Like you're going to look it up, make a list of the words that you want to learn today. Later on, you will learn words by reading articles in Italian, by listening to Italians. I have a ton of videos in Italian, so you might say, oh, I didn't understand that word. You look it up, now you're learning it. But as a beginner, you will have to look them up and make lists. And so I would do flashcards, but then the one thing that I would really do is start using them in context. So let's say that you've just learned that the word for elbow is gomito, then I would say start using it. You see somebody and you say, oh, what a beautiful elbow. Like, it doesn't matter what you say, but try and use that word or those words as many times as possible within the first week. Because if you just learn it, you may not remember it. But if you start using it, and so whatever word you use, start using them in your basic Italian or in your more advanced Italian, and you find that your brain will remember them. Okay. Momodu, can you explain the difference between cercare and frugare? I don't even know. I mean, frugare is not very common to be used. So cercare is the verb that means to look for something. Okay. Frugare or even rovistare is when you, okay, the meaning is the same. Okay. Let's say I am looking for my house keys. Then I would say cerco le chiavi di casa. So I'm looking for them. So cercare is the verb. I'm looking. But frugare is when, let's say, it's going to be a very bad example, but it is it's the verb that means this. So let's say I'm at your house and you go away and then I go through your drawers looking for stuff. That is frugare. So I'm looking for things without the authorization. So that's kind of like the meaning. Okay. Gabby, wish I had Italian friends, even just to, yeah, I know. Speaking the language is going to make a difference. And so for this, I would suggest a couple of options. There are places where you can do language exchange. Like, for example, speaky.com, I like that one. But there are Hello Talk and other ones. And it's free, but you have to exchange your time speaking your language to them one time, and then they speak Italian to you. It's time consuming. I don't do that because I don't have a lot of time. I personally, especially as a beginner, I would not go to places like italki because you have to pay for lessons, but you actually need to speak. Hopefully you have a much cheaper way to learn Italian. I have a ton of really good courses that I kind of give you everything, and it's super cheap instead of having to pay somebody, for 20 bucks an hour for whatever, or 50 bucks if you see them in person. So I wouldn't use italki as a beginner because you actually just need to speak, and so you shouldn't have to pay to just speak. So maybe the language exchange things are options. There's a site called meetup.com. You might find there are meetups in your city that meet like Italians where Italians meet. They'd be happy to welcome you. The problem with meetups is that I've tried going to meetups where they speak Spanish, and it's mostly just no Spanish speakers getting together speaking Spanish, and so it wasn't that good for me. Another thing that very soon I will open up my platform, which we actually give, there's a chat that you can type, voice or video call as part of the access to the membership with Italian, so you can do that any day or every day basically. You need to speak as much as possible. So yeah, friends, great. Go out more. I don't know what to say. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm going to say Jude. You want to learn articulated prepositions. I haven't made a YouTube video yet. I have a video from the course that I could publish. I could do that. So I wouldn't say that you're a beginner though, because you shouldn't have to worry about articulated prepositions if you're a beginner. It's more of a later. But yeah, they're not that hard. Okay, but I'm not going to cover them now because obviously no time. Okay. Rebecca, what about the immersion? No, at what level is immersion most useful? What would be more beneficial to wait? Would it be more beneficial to wait until I reach more intermediate level to spend the money on immersion programs? It's a bit of a tough one. I would say it depends on you and how much of a linguist you are. If Italian is the very first language that foreign language that you approach, and you are not very aware of your own native language, I'm going to assume it's English, and most people are not aware of their own language, then I would wait a little bit longer before spending the money for an immersion program, because it's going to be really hard. I mean, the reason why I teach Italian in English is that in my experience as a linguist, it takes 10 times longer for a non-speaker of my language to understand what I'm doing if I just say it in Italian. So for me, it's just a lot easier, especially with languages that are so similar like English and Italian. I can just tell you, hey, you know, when you say an apple or a apple, the idea in Italian is una, and then you're done. With 5 minutes, you get it. And so, as a beginner who has no real linguistic like nuances, like I don't know if that makes sense, I would wait until I know some Italian grammar and I'm comfortable with the pronunciation. I know what Italian sounds like, and then I would go. If, on the other hand, you already have learned another language, or you're very well prepared with English, like you actually know English grammar, you understand that, then I would go as soon as possible, because the sooner you immerse yourself, the quicker you will learn the language. So immersion is good if you can go to Italy and spend time. If you, again, referring back to Italian Accelerator, that series that I have, Christian went to Italy with zero Italian, and within 3 months he was kind of conversing, and then after 6 months he was conversing really well. But he spoke Spanish. Okay, so of course that's what I'm saying. Like, had he gone only knowing English, that would have been a lot harder, and then I would have said maybe learn a little bit of Italian before you go. Good. Haley, you're the best. You're the best. Grazie. Okay. And I saw a question and I missed it. Robert, Manu, have you heard of Google's real-time translator? I have. There are now, like, you know, the headphones. To be honest, I mean, as a trained, I worked as a translator for a number of years, so I'm a trained translator. That's what I studied. And it's not because I don't want to say that machines won't replace translators, but it won't work. Right now, there's no way it can work, because have you ever tried speech recognition? It doesn't work all the time. So for a machine to translate properly, first the machine has to understand what you're saying in a native language, and in many cases it doesn't. Once it understands what you said in English, for example, which is difficult, it has to translate it into Italian, but it's not able to pick up your irony. It doesn't pick up, you know, like jokes and stuff. So I don't think it's going to be a suitable option, unless all you want it for is quanto costa questo vestito, then it's fine, it's going to understand and translate it, but okay. So what have we got? Sorry, I have to look down because I didn't set up my chat right. I'll be better prepared next time. George, capisco l'80% di quello che sento quando guardo i tuoi video. Quel numero scende al 40-60% quando sono fuori nella mia casa a Firenze e l'accento... Okay, totally. I actually recently posted something on the forum on the Academy where students were complaining that they can understand more than they can speak. And that's part of learning a language. And what you just said, I just thought it froze. It's totally normal, because when you... I think I'm breaking up. I hope you can still see me and hear me. Nope, something is happening. You can hear me? Okay. I don't know, it's breaking up at my end. I don't know. Sorry. What was I saying? Yes. So the reason you understand my videos is that I speak clearly. I'm not saying I speak slower than Italians, but I speak clearly and I have a good microphone that picks up my voice. And I record them in the quietest room that I can, environment that I can possibly do that. And now I've lost focus on that. Sorry. Okay, it's becoming a disaster. I may have to cut the call. Alright, let me see if I can fix it. Okay, I've lowered the quality of the stream. See if it works. So, no, I think it's my internet. Remember that I'm in Australia, the most horrible internet the Western world has ever seen. So, okay, we're probably good. So, yeah, the reason why you understand me more easily is that it's a very clean, sterile environment, and so that's how you're going to learn Italian, by focusing on the language. But when you go out in the world, there's background. I don't know. I think I'm breaking up. I'm gonna finish this thought and then say goodbye. There's background noise. There's like buses. So it's by definition it's going to be harder to understand a language in real life. And I think I have to say goodbye because this is just breaking up. It's been so good to be back with you for this half an hour. It wasn't that scary. I can do this every week. Okay. Something important, I hope you can hear, is I've set up, the problem that we had the first time with live shows is that you never knew when it happened. And of course, I'm not going to commit to a certain time every day because I try to still have a life. I don't, but if you go to italymedisi.com/live, you'll be able to sign up for email notifications. So I will be able to email you a couple of hours before I go live, because it takes me a couple of hours to get ready. And I will email you before I go live, and then you don't miss the show because you know now. Okay, so italymedisi.com/live. Grazie mille a tutti, è stato un piacere vedervi, è bellissimo, ci vediamo la settimana prossima per un livello intermedio di italiano, ok? Ciao ciao!